Mark, you've been involved in a number of high-profile cases. What do the police say? Why is it, from the prosecution side, it took you so long to get the high-resolution photo as opposed to the grainy black and white?
Well, it's just one example of the frustration that we've had in this case, getting some discovery. Again, we got the grainy black and white in the beginning. We then continued to ask for it. We actually got a second one, which was a color copier, or color copy of a picture. And finally, last month, we finally got the digital photo. It's just frustrating because this type of evidence should have come out day one, and quite honestly, I think would have gone a long way to quelling all of the anger against George that was sort of propounded by some of the Trayvon Martin family handlers who just turned this into much more than it ever was in the beginning.
Well, we are where we are now. You heard Mr. Martin's family, Benjamin Crump's lawyer, saying you've seen the earlier photo. He dismisses it, saying it's not significant, it's just HD, that you've already seen the black and white version. How do you think specifically this helps your client?
Well, I think this truly just shows. I mean, there's blood sort of flooding from his nose a little bit. You can see that. And you can really see the nose. It's a much better picture. So is it devastating? No, but it's just one piece of evidence that shows what George was going through that night and why he reacted the way he did. Again, as other evidence that we showed concerning who was the one who was screaming for help that night, there was some other evidence that came out that was referenced in a motion that it was George, and this type of evidence just needs to have come out 6-7 months ago.
You filed a motion Friday to get the full audio tape of the interview done by the Martin family with the witness believed to be his girlfriend. How crucial is that? What is it that you're looking for, and how crucial is it to your case?
Well, first of all, I think it is the crucial witness of the state's case is the person who was on the phone with Trayvon Martin just before the incident happened. My frustration is that they've had it since March. We have a copy, which first was redacted, of course, and you can tell that it's been edited at least half a dozen to a dozen times. My frustration is I don't have a copy of the digital format file, and it's absurd that I still don't have it. If it's in Mr. Crump's hands, then he should turn it over to law enforcement. If not, he should be subpoenaed to turn it over. That is crucial evidence. I deserve it, and my client deserves it.
Let me come back one last point about that new HD version of the photo we've seen. Mr. Crump, the Martin family attorney, says he's still waiting for the X-ray of George Zimmerman's nose to determine whether it was actually broken. What can you tell us about that, and when will it be ready?
Well, Mr. Crump knows because he saw the medical records before I did, since they were forwarded to him from the state attorney's office. There are no X-rays because Mr. Zimmerman, when he went to the doctor the next day, he really went to be cleared for work. They suggested he go get some X-rays, and he didn't do it. Obviously, in retrospect, now that this is an issue, I wish we had X-rays. However, now that we have that picture, I'll let the judge decide in an immunity hearing. I'll let a jury decide as to whether or not that, in George's mind, was great bodily injury. And of course, we have the hits to the back of the head on the cement that also suggests great bodily injury. No X-rays, but I'm quite okay with that.
See the black and white photograph. It's not as detailed, of course, as the one that shows actual color and the blood as well. I agree with that. But we did see photographs, as you've shown, of the back of the head. We saw him with the police in their custody immediately after. We could see the cuts to the back of his head. We could see the blood there. We could see there was some kind of injury to the front of the face. This does certainly corroborate his claim that there was a confrontation between them, that there was a violent struggle. I don't think even the Trayvon Martin's family attorney would disagree that there was some kind of confrontation between them and a physical altercation. The bottom line, John, though, is does this photograph, this new one, the digital photograph, mean that we no longer have to listen to what or evaluate the credibility of George Zimmerman's claim that he acted in self-defense when he shot Trayvon Martin? No, it doesn't. It doesn't take away from the fact that we still have to believe George Zimmerman's version of the events in order to acquit him. This photograph does not change that.
And does the complaining, the case from Mr. O'Mara that the prosecution, for whatever reason, is stalling, that they give him first the grainy black and white photo, then they give him another photo, then finally the color HD photo, does that have any sway with the jury as he also shows them the photos and tries to say, see the blood, this is self-defense? Does questioning the prosecution's tactics, does that help?
Well, certainly the defense does do that, which is why And just in general, I have to say, John, you never want to mess around with discovery. It's so important. A defendant has the right to defend himself, has a right under the Constitution to confront and cross-examine witnesses against him, and part of that right means that he gets to see the information and the evidence that's going to be presented so he can prepare his defense. And I think it's always inadvisable for the prosecution to hold back evidence that they know they have. You know, you've got to hand it over. You've got to give the defense a chance to look at it. It's never going to look good to a jury if the defense can get up and say, hey, you know what? You didn't give me this for months and months and months. He had this tape recording. He had this evidence. He had this photograph, and he held on to it and sat on it and didn't turn it over to me till yesterday, for example. That never looks good. Will it make a difference in terms of the ultimate outcome? I doubt it, because these things are being turned over prior to trial. Now, if something's being turned over in the midst of trial, literally at the last minute, that can look very bad. That can make a jury turn on the prosecution and say, why are you hiding this? Why do you feel you need to hide it? If you have a strong case, why would you do that? But that's not what's happening here. They should have, you know, he's claiming that they delayed in the turning over of the evidence. If that's true, they shouldn't do it. And I think that whatever they do have in their possession now, including the tape recording, should be turned over immediately, and let the defense